Welcome again to the Medical Terminology Podcast. This episode is Chapter 8, Part 2, Physiological Terms. In this episode, I'm going to go over the terms with you that relate to the physiology of digestion. And remember again, physiology refers to the process or the function of the system as opposed to just the structures. The first term we have is metabolism. metabolism. Metabolism refers to all of the processes involved in the body's use of nutrients. And the term metabolism has two subparts. There's two types or sub-processes of metabolism. The first part is anabolism. 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 Anabolism refers to the building up of body cells and substances from nutrients. So the nutrients come into the body, and these nutrients are used as building blocks. New, more complex substances are built that the body needs. The opposite of that is catabolism. 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 Catabolism is the breaking down of body cells and substances, which releases energy and carbon dioxide. Now, as part of metabolism, we have a term that we already talked about last time, and that is digestion. Digestion, again, is the process by which complex foods are broken down into the nutrients that the body can use. So digestion breaks the foods down into nutrients, and then metabolism uses these nutrients. Well, now we're going to go over the process of digestion. Digestion begins in the mouth, where food is chewed and swallowed, and we have two terms related to this process. First of all, we have the medical term for chewing, and that is mastication. mastication. Mastication, the medical term for chewing. After the food is chewed, we have a mass of chewed food in the mouth that is swallowed, and that mass of chewed food is called a bolus. 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 Well, the bolus then moves down the esophagus via gravity and peristalsis to the stomach. Peristalsis refers to the series of wave-like contractions of the smooth muscles in a single direction. It's this wave-like motion of the smooth muscles that pushes things through the body. Peristalsis moves the food down the esophagus. It also moves the food through the intestines. Well, after the swallowed food gets to the stomach, gastric juices and the churning action of the stomach convert the food into chyme, which then exits the stomach and travels to the small intestine. So there again we have another new term, chyme, spelled C-H-Y-M-E, chyme. And that is a semi-fluid mass of partly digested food that leaves the stomach. Well, in the small intestine, the food is further digested and then it's absorbed. And the term absorption, 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 refers to the process by which digested nutrients are transported to the cells. And this happens in the small intestine, and there's a special structure in the small intestine that is actually responsible for absorption. For some reason, this was not put in the anatomical section, but rather saved to here. But this is actually an anatomical structure, and it's called the villi, V-I-L-L-I. And these are structures in the small intestine that contain blood vessels and lacteals, and these are responsible for absorbing the nutrients into the bloodstream. so they can be transported to the cells. Now, first of all, the villi contain blood vessels, and these blood vessels will directly absorb most nutrients. They'll just directly go into the bloodstream at that point. An exception to that are some fats. And there's a secondary part of the villi that are responsible for absorbing the fats, and these are the lacteals. Lacteals. I hope you remember from chapter 6 that lacteals are actually part of the lymphatic system. They are lymphatic tissue. And the lacteals absorb fats into the lymphatic system, where they are transferred to the lymph nodes, which filter them and process them before they are then sent to the bloodstream. So absorption, the process by which digested nutrients are transported to the cells. The villi in the small intestine are the structures that do that, and the villi contain the blood vessels, which directly absorb the nutrients to the bloodstream, take them to the cells, and then the lacteals, which absorb the fats to the lymphatic system first before they then go to the bloodstream, and finally the cells. Okay, so there we've got to the absorption process. Now, finally, in the large intestine, what is left over, the waste products, are then processed and eliminated from the body. And we've got three terms relating to that. The first one is feces, Feces, and that's the medical term for the waste that is formed when excess water is removed. The second term is borborygmus. This is a challenging one to spell and say. Borborygmus. Borborygmus. And borborygmus is a medical term for the rumbling noise of gas in the intestine. As the wastes are processed, there's lots of bacteria in the intestine, and these can start breaking down some of the waste products, and it can create gas. And so we have the rumbling noise of gas in the intestine sometimes. And that leads us to a related term, and that is flatulence. Flatulence. Well, flatulence is the medical term for the passage of gas out of the body through the rectum. Okay, well, these are the new terms that are related to the processing of food, the digestive process. We also have some terms that are related to specialties, and I'm going to go ahead and go over those with you now. The specialties related to the digestive system. The first term is bariatrics. 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 And this is the branch of medicine that is concerned with the prevention and control of obesity. And you may have heard of bariatric surgery, where they go in and put a lap band around the stomach, which will decrease its size and hopefully make people eat less so they can lose weight. That's bariatrics. The second term is for a specialist in diagnosing and treating diseases and disorders of the stomach and intestines. And I think we've seen this term before. It's gastroenterologist. Gastro, gastro is stomach, entero, entero, which is the small intestine, right? And then finally, ologist, logist, which means specialist. The third term is internist, internist. And another term for this would be a doctor of internal medicine. And this is a physician who specializes in diagnosing and treating disorders of the internal organs and related body systems. While an internist is considered a specialist, actually the internist is also a primary care physician. This would be someone who could be your regular doctor you go see, but an internist is a specialist in diagnostics of the internal organs. A gastroenterologist usually goes through the internal medicine specialty first, and then they subspecialize in gastroenterology. So most gastroenterologists are also internists. They're specialists in internal medicine who've then specialized further. Fourth term we have here is periodontist. Periodontist. A periodontist is a dental specialist, the type of dentist who's gone on for further training and education. A periodontist is a dental specialist who prevents or treats disorders of the tissues surrounding the teeth. Finally, we have proctologist. Procto, procto, and then ologist, logist, proctologist. And this is a physician who specializes in disorders of the colon, rectum, and anus. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do some practice over these terms. What is the medical term for chewing? That's mastication. 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 What is the term for the branch of medicine that is concerned with the prevention or treatment of obesity? Well, that's bariatrics. Bariatrics. What is the term for the process by which complex foods are broken down into nutrients in a form the body can use? Well, that's digestion. Digestion. And what is the term for the wave-like contractions of a smooth muscle in a single direction? That's peristalsis. 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 And what is the term for the dental specialist in disorders of the tissues surrounding the teeth? Well, that's a periodontist. Periodontist. And if you remember from last time, the tissues surrounding the teeth are referred to as the periodontium. So that kind of fits that the periodontist treats the periodontium. What is the term for the semi-fluid mass of partially digested food that leaves the stomach? Well, that is the chyme. 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 And what is the term for the structures in the small intestine that absorb nutrients? Well, those are the villi. Villi. And the lymphatic tissues in the small intestine that absorb fats are known as the what? Well, those are the lacteals. Lactals, and the lacteals are actually part of the villi. A specialist in diagnosing and treating diseases and disorders of the stomach and intestines is A or N what? Well, that's the gastroenterologist. GastroEnterologist. And what is the medical term for the rumbling noise of gas in the intestines? Okay, that's that little bit tricky one. That's borborygmus. 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 And what is the medical term for all of the processes involved in the body's use of nutrients? That's metabolism. Metabolism. And a specialist in disorders of the colon, rectum, and anus is known as what? That's a proctologist. Proctologist. And what is the term for a mass of chewed food? That's a bolus. Bolus. What is the term for the process of breaking down body cells and substances? That's catabolism. 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 What is the term for waste products after excessive fluid is removed? That's feces. Feces. And finally, what is the term for a specialist in diagnosing and treating diseases and disorders that are related to the internal organs and related body systems? That's an internist or doctor of internal medicine. Okay, well, this was a brief episode, but I thought some of these terms needed to be gone over because sometimes they are understudied and missed on tests. In the next episode, we'll go ahead and look at the pathologies. This ends this episode of the Medical Terminology Podcast.